This is part 2 of Zero Wait States interview series with Cantel Medical.
So upgrades, I guess, in general, is kind of what you're really talking about on some level. Historically, I've noticed, especially with medical device companies, that a lot of them stay version locked because of the level of testing that's associated with, going to a new version, because they have to, basically go back in and revalidate all of the things that have changed, in the system when they do their upgrades. So you'll have, medical device companies that are running on, 5 or 6-year-old technology because they don't want to have to deal with that.
Right, and we deal with a risk-based approach for that validation, and we still go through testing and go through all of our due diligence with any of the upgrades. But it really keeps it on the forefront and understanding of what we're doing with the software to keep it current, and it almost makes us want to stay current with that as well, because it is so easy, right? It's like, why wouldn't you go to the latest version? It's just that simple. It's not like I'm changing out my computer. I still have a 10-year-old computer sitting right next to me because I don't want to change out that computer. It has too much stuff on it, right? It's not the same. I'm using it completely on the web, and just makes it a lot easier to maintain.
Got it. So given your previous experience with Agile PLM, were there any benefits or challenges moving to Propel? Any things that you had to kind of unlearn? And then are there any obvious advantages or disadvantages between the two systems? And the reason I ask is that, obviously with Agile coming to, sort of an end of life in the foreseeable future, I think a lot of companies that are currently running Agile are going to have to make a choice. And I'm just curious, what attracted you to Propel in regards, because I think that's the system that you've probably used the most and were the most familiar with was Agile. So kind of what's your perspective in contrasting the two technologies?
Yeah, I spent probably the last 10, 12 years or so working with Agile PLM, and so it definitely was a changing from that paradigm into something different was a scary thought process, right? It was going, oh my goodness, I know I know the Agile PLM is gonna, end of life. What else is out there? What else is available? And the transition from Agile PLM to Propel PLM is a no-brainer. This is the data structures are similar, the processes are very similar, and I would say even more flexible in Propel PLM. We're able to do a whole lot more in Propel than we would have been able to do in Agile without some serious customization. And even the when you're looking at an item and you're looking at your relationships to that item, it's in a very similar thought process, right? So the constructs of a subclass and a class, or class, subclass, and fields, right, and how they associate and relate to each other are very similar in nature, right? They have different terminology, but they're very similar in and made it easy to transition to Propel PLM.
And I think that was by design. I think a lot of the guys at Propel, have backgrounds from Agile. One of the things I've always kind of characterized, I'd be curious if you think it's true, is that if you look at Agile sort of being sort of at some point, probably in the last couple of years, it reached its sort of climax or pinnacle, and there really hasn't been a lot of development done. And so that, flag has really kind of been dropped on the battlefield, if you will, sort of carrying forward the standard of Agile. And it always seemed to me, looking at Propel, is like if Agile had continued on as an independent company and
Yeah.
developers were still working on that technology, it seems to me like Propel would be sort of the logical extension, moving forward of what Agile was, to kind of bring
Mhm.
it into the future. Is that, I mean, do you think that's a reasonable characterization?
Yeah, I think that is, and to give you an example of how that plays out and how that's true is that we were able to spend and pay more attention to spend time and more attention to the data reporting aspects of it, our dashboards, notifications that come out of Propel, and just giving people not more access to data, but more relevant, timely information on what's happening in PLM.
Is there any, I mean, and you've talked about this already, but, what are some of the specific advantages that you've experienced with Propel running on the Salesforce platform?
I think one of the so we looked at this when we started out and saying, okay, where do we want to take advantages of some of those common things, and they still hold true to even what we're doing today. It's a common for one, it's a common platform to other processes that we already have in Salesforce. We're currently using some of the CRM capability, and a couple of other customer management pieces. But it's with our SAP integration and SAP activities with Salesforce, we're able to use some of the common APIs. We're able to use common platform activities. The integrations, if you will, to other applications. It's a common activity. People have already developed something for a Salesforce integration, if you will, right? And so we're able to use some of those common platform things to be able to get to some of this data, to be able to use some of this data. And so that's definitely a comment. How are we going to use this data throughout our organization, right? The same user experience, user interface, and then we're able to, running on that Salesforce platform, we're really able to expand our functionality to what makes Cantel Medical a great company is, you know, developing those custom processes, if you will, and putting them on the platform, right? So we're using Propel data. We have an additional process that says, hey, we want to make this even better and expand our use cases in this, and that the Salesforce platform allows us to do that.
Thanks for that. So again, we talked a little bit earlier about medical device. Obviously, Propel's put a lot of energy into positioning Propel as a solution for the medical device space. They brought in, Chuck Sarin from Stryker, and they have a lot of mind share that they devote internally to, making Propel a useful tool for medical device. What has been your experience? Is there anything unique inside of Propel in regards to medical device capabilities that you benefit from?
I think it comes for a medical device. There's a couple of pieces that are key. It really comes down to how we manage and control our products, right? Being able to see the DMR or the device master record, being able to create a design history file within the structure of PLM natively, and be able to categorize some of this data in a way that we just haven't been able, in other applications haven't been able to see. Managing that in the native, I'll say native format of Propel, but we're not pulling it out into a completely separate application. We're not managing a technical file in a different database. We're able to pull and aggregate the same information that everyone else is using into a common platform, common activity.
You're able to derive the information that you need instead of having to explicitly create it.
Yes. Yeah, we're not copying that into a completely different system, and that's where I think the benefits definitely within Propel have been able to do that.
This has been part 2 of the interview series. Keep watching for part 3.